And we're live, just to let you know, okay? But still waiting on people to show up. For those who are joining, thank you for coming in. I'm waiting on others to show up while we get this started. See how to invite the other one. Although I put the invite out there, I want to make sure that I did what I did the 2 lives before. Super fan, join, can now customize badge. Can I invite others? Okay, I'm gonna be turning this around so we could start. I don't find. I'm gonna invite my friends on here. But in either case, let's just flip the camera here. Okay, so the live from yesterday, let me just recap as the others show. It was about the game of life, and how everyone should create their own script of the instructions, how they want to be handled, etc., etc. And as that example, I gave the game of life as how it's played, and on another example that I gave was also Monopoly. Those who know how to play the game will play with you, etc., etc. That was just a recap for the yesterday's live. And then I ended it with saying that I was going to speak about the ego. Okay. The ego. The ego that, for example, as an example. And today I also have with me, please also share the live with other ones. I invite them in so they could learn about the ego death. And this is all like giving guidance as to how go about a lot of the questions that people have. Guidance and clarity is what I offer. And I also have here my boyfriend who's going to join me in the live today. His voice will be present, but not his face, and that's quite okay because we're trying to ease on this transition of showing up.
Hello, everyone. My name is Adam. I'm Michelle's boyfriend.
Okay, that was his little intro, and we are talking about as an example of the movie A Bug's Life. I know this part like we looked at it as a kids movie. With those who don't know, never heard of it, you should go watch it just for kicks. Okay. So in A Bug's Life, the grasshopper has the ego, right? And not just an ego, he has an unhealthy ego because as Adam will explain, there's healthy egos to have, am I right? And there's unhealthy egos. And what we most experience is the unhealthy kind, right? So Adam, explain to us about having unhealthy egos or egos.
Sure. Well, the unhealthy ego is the ego that says, I'm superior to you. You need to do this because I am better than you, or I can subjugate you or oppress you because I am stronger, faster, or whatever it is that you're using as a comparison. And the healthy ego is more like, okay, yes, I understand that there's a difference between me and you. We're not the same, but that doesn't mean that I am better than you because I am, I'm this and you're not. We're just different. So that's
Yeah, and it's okay to be different. No one is asking everyone to be like the same way. Because as I explained yesterday, this is why everyone should come with like instructions or guide as to, you know, how they should be treated and how should they be handled and stuff like that. Because each one has a different life experience. Okay, I'm gonna turn around the camera again. And then we have on the next, I'm trying to do this as a slide, but so in the movie A Bug's Life, the grasshopper wanted to the food. I
so
wrote it. I wrote it wrong before the yeah.
in the movie. I'll chip in here. So we're talking about the Bug's Life. For those who haven't seen the movie, the main plot is that you have
To get.
grasshoppers that basically have an ant colony that they control, they're subjugated, and they demand that every year that they give them a certain part of their food production, right? They have to give them food production, and every year they come in and they get the food from the ants. Um, they don't have to work for it; they just get it because they're bigger and stronger than the ants, and that's how it's always been in the movie. Uh, but that's how the movie starts. I don't know if you just want to keep going and just the plot of the beginning, right?
Yeah, they wanted it's like I wrote the thing wrong here on my iPad. The grasshopper wanted to get the food for free from the ants. And how unfair is that, right? And you know, what can they work for on their own damn food? So if the ants are hard worker, they're not. You ever seen an ant? And, they're always like grabbing food. Even if you're outside, you're inside the house, whatever. That was working for to take back to their colony, right? And so, but they worked for that. They got out there. They hustle. They got their own food, right? There they hustle. They got their own food, right? Um, the ants united. This is my next bullet point here. The ants united and stood up to the grasshopper and were able, and the grasshopper were able to leave. I should say the grasshopper.
So chipping in again here. So
Yeah.
as the movie progresses, again, we're just summarizing for we. I mean, I'll be spoiling the movie here,
No, no, go ahead. Spoiler,
but
right?
sorry for those that haven't seen it. But so, spoiler alert. So the ants eventually, there's one ant that eventually starts to question, well, why are we following the grasshoppers? I mean, there's a lot of us, and we work for our food. Why must we give some of it to them? And the grasshoppers, they try to bring that ant down. They try to subjugate it, but eventually that little ant convinces the whole colony that, hey, if we unite together, they have no chance. I mean, they may be bigger than us and maybe stronger and they can fly, but united, they have no chance against us. So at the end of the movie, once the ants realized that and they stood up to the grasshoppers, and the grasshoppers came in to get their collection of food at the end of the time of the year where they came to get their food supply, the ants were like, no, we're not giving it to you. The grasshoppers tried to bully them, like, no, you have to do it. And they all stood as one, united, and the grasshoppers, they looked at each other and they're like, oh wow. They figured out that if they stand together, we have no choice. If we stay, this wasn't stated, but when they looked at each other, they were communicating. If we stay here, we're gonna get eaten alive. There's too many ants. There's not enough of us. We have to go. They left, and the ants were able to, in that story, eventually now they were free, right? They didn't have to give their food that they worked so hard for to grasshoppers that were just leeching off of it. Now the grasshoppers, to go off of on the eagle here, they if they would have repented, like, okay, ants, you know what, we're sorry, we did the wrong thing. I mean, just because we are bigger than you and we can fly and we're stronger doesn't mean that we have a right to subjugate you, right? But no, they just left. They didn't let their ego. They kept their ego. They just went to look for another ant colony, probably to subjugate.
And yeah, and that's, yeah, I'm sorry. That's the part that bothers me, that they didn't have an ego death. They had like, okay, we got caught. Let me just go in a sneaky way and do it to somebody else who doesn't know any better, who doesn't know how to stand up for themselves, and don't know about the united front idea, right?
Yeah. And the message of that movie is that the ants are a very impressive species. They build like things that are like thousands of times their size. They can carry weight that is a lot bigger than what they are. So they work together. But their main thing is that they're a collective species. They all work together in unison, and they can build great things. And once they stood up together as a collective to the grasshoppers, they were able to defeat them without even a battle. There wasn't a war. Because the grasshoppers realized that they couldn't stand a chance against a whole ant colony. They would eat them alive. I'm sure you've all seen like ants surrounding like a dead insect and eating it. They can eat stuff. A whole ant colony. So they're very powerful together.
Yeah. And in conclusion, but just for this section, I guess, in conclusion, the we all have a grasshopper, right, in our lives, who bully us, and some have grasshoppers, in plural. So the main key here is fear, right? Like, they feed off your fear, or how they expect you not to stand up for yourself, because somehow they block that. And I spoke yesterday about how, as a kid, you are told, like, don't speak, adults are speaking, then that kind of builds up into, like, as an adult, when do you say something, as far as in work is concerned, to get a raise, for example, or if you see something done wrong to you, how do you get justice? I spoke about my personal aspect of how I look at law, how I sometimes don't even take things to court because why you need money to win, because I feel as though that's how the court of law it functions. And it's sad because it's like a lot of the people who are picked on are the ones who are low income, are the ones who don't have the means to hire a good lawyer, and and maybe to stand up for themselves. You know, if I say something to the grasshopper, who's gonna back me up? And the movies, the Bugs Life, the colony united. So united is where the strength is. And united building your community. And people go beyond as doing riots. Because that's how people tend to unite and support cause, but they get out of hand, and then you mentioned a riot, and it's like you get a wrong connotation of it, because it's like, oh, those are the reckless people who do X, Y, and Z just to throwing tantrums. But if we do it the right way, if you colonize the right way, as the aunts did, and do a united front and stand up to the grasshoppers, so that they could, because the fair game is the fair game. Like you work with what you have. You went to the store and bought that food because you work at your job that you got up every morning, which you probably hate. And you sacrifice your time, your energy, your skills, for somebody else. You just come take your hard work and just like that, and not and not basically, it's not about giving credit, it's about them doing the same thing, working hard for what they, if they want to eat, then you gotta work, you gotta either provide a service or go work for someone, but make it a fair game, right? You have anything?
I'll chip in here. And one of the in the movie, it all starts with one person, right? It started with one ant that questioned, well, why do we do this? Why must we give a certain percent of the food to the grasshoppers? So one ant started to question why, and then he spread his message of why, and but it all starts with one person. But just to kind of follow off of that, well, why didn't the ants stand up to the grasshoppers before? Like, why did they wait? It took them a while for them to stand up. Well, because of fear, right? They were scared.
Yeah.
What were the ants scared of? Of death. They were scared of being killed by the more powerful grasshoppers, and that they would die. Right. So it's one thing to note here is that we must conquer the fear of death, because it kind of holds you back from standing up for your rights, what you believe to be true, and not allowing someone to subjugate you because you believe that maybe they're more powerful, or they hold all the money or power and you just a nobody. No, as a collective, we are very powerful, very powerful. And their grasshoppers, they knew that. They knew that if the ants ever figured out that they were more and more powerful, then the game of the grasshopper was over.
Exactly.
So
So it's like they. I want to point out that they're powerful. I mean, whenever you're united, you are powerful together, right? United. But you're also powerful within you. Like the spark that I spoke about, building it, alchemizing your pain into something positive, and that's how you become creative, and you expand on you know what I mean, on your own growth, on your own building your own fire, basically. Um, so conquering fear is the hardest, I think, out of my experience. Yeah. Um, fear of a lot of things. Um, first of all, if you're gonna have support, like the people are gonna look at you a certain way. Um, like thankfully I have Adam to back me up on this, right? And he has his own experience and I have my own experience, and together um we're trying to help others, to kind of like conquer their fears. I just more to the story behind this. I just want to like simplify it so you guys could understand how his work, how the injustice is, and how you're able to stand for yourself, because there is a way to conquer that grasshopper, and as I call it, a bully or someone who steals your work and tries to get away with it, just because they're the grasshopper, so I think they're bigger than bad, type of situation. But don't give up on, oh, how do I fight this without money? How do I fight this? Who's gonna believe me? Because I seen it all. And we experience different sides of sometimes how someone who has so much skills and others don't, why others get, I don't know, better influence. I didn't want to say worship, get paid to assist, and others, get treated like scums, why, and I want to give this just like a vague example, why people have to go to church and tithe, and celebrities go into clubs and get paid to be there, no matter if you live in a ghetto, if you think nobody recognizes your status, whatever, you have a particular, I want to say like the movie, you have a particular set of skills that is valued to who you are, and you should be respected just the same. You should be, admired for what you've been through, and rose above it. Your story is just your story. No one should take it from you. No grasshopper, no idiots, if I just put it lightly. And justice should be done where it shouldn't be about money status rather than who's right and who's wrong. Period. Innocent to proven guilty, not play guilty in order to be proven innocent, because then they twist that so much. Trust me, they twist that so much that then, oh, well, you already pled guilty, like, how are you gonna get out of that, so there's a lot of, and that was part of my first life and second life. What would you rewrite? How would you rewrite your script? What laws you need to change? What laws would you change? How would you write your own script? And it's just about making a community where everything is fair. It's a fair game. You work for it, you earn it, you get to keep it. Period. It's not difficult. Don't over whatever. If you didn't study for that test, oh well, you get to fail. Don't go. It's not difficult. Don't don't over whatever. If you didn't study for that test, oh well, you get to fail. Don't go copying somebody's answers and and bullying somebody to give you the answers.
And I'll chip in here if I may. Going back to the Bug's Life, that, and I'll get a little. I know that's like a family movie, but I'll get a little philosophical here. I love philosophy. Nietzsche, the philosopher, German philosopher, he mentions one of his main tenets is like the master-slave relationship. For anyone who has read Nietzsche, uh, in the philosophy of that movie, the grasshoppers is basically the master. The ants are the slave race. So we, for most of human history, we've been living in that paradigm. You can also call that predator prey. That's another name for it if you want to give it another title. Like the predator who's stronger takes advantage of the prey, the lion who eats the zebra because he's the predator. We need, as a human species, we need to move more towards a master-master relationship, meaning that we acknowledge that, hey, we all have a spark of God, right, inside of us. I'm not better than you. I'm not a predator, and you're my prey, so I'm going to take advantage of you. We need to work from that premise that we are all masters of our own destiny. And in order for me to be a master, and this is something that Nietzsche talks about, you don't need to subjugate someone else in order to be a true master. Doesn't need to have a slave in order to prove that he's a master. He's just a master because he is his own being, right? He sets his own rules. But we, for most of our existence as humanity, we've defined master as subjugating others, which is not the true meaning of masters. So I just wanted to chip in and mention that.
Good call. Yeah. I don't see any questions on here. I'm gonna wrap this up. How long did? Oh, I'm looking out. But basically, don't be afraid. It's fear will hold back a lot of people in partnership with victimizing. So the minute you start saying, "Oh, I'm afraid because I've been through so much, and no one has been treated in the childhood like I have been treated," or poor me because this happened, and so therefore I have a right to feel all this pain. I'm not saying don't feel pain, but don't drag it out through your whole life and let that be the main lesson, or not even a lesson because you haven't surpass that. So don't let that be the main character in your story. Life is not easy for no one. Let's just put it that way. Is how you get past that, how you rise above it, how you fight your giants, your grasshoppers, your bullies, however you want to call them, by facing them. It's plain and simple. That's how I look at it. But no one should be like, "Oh no, she's different because she's been through this and therefore, it's an exception to the rules." No. Everybody has to get over their victimized, just the same as getting over your fears and, living life, not as a villain or anything like that, because I spoke again about if you become the dark because you've been betrayed. So have everyone else on this freaking planet. You're not the first, you won't be the last. If you feel like the justice system has treated you wrong, yeah, that you're not the first, you won't be the last. How can we do something about it? Yes. All willing to do something about it? Not likely, but doesn't mean that's not the route you should take. If you feel like you need to do it alone, do it alone. I mean, if even if you have to leave your family behind, and not behind because the outcast or whatever. It's not about being the outcast. It's about just because it's your family, they don't have to think the same way that you do. You have to probably find your own group of family to create, to support what you stand for. And that's just it. you're not married to your family, and that people are basically are like what is it called, like not handcuff, tie down to this belief where if my family doesn't believe it, then that's the wrong way of thinking, you know. uh as long as it's you know, you're not hurting anyone with your new way of thinking, you know, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're standing up for yourself because you believe that you should, everybody's telling, oh no, should I, who's gonna believe you, blah blah blah, you know, like, don't fall into that. So what if they don't believe you? You said it. You opened up your throat chakra, your heart chakra, whatever it is that, you know, that is that people in shackles of imprisonment. You know, you could be a prisoner and not be in jail. Let's just put it that way. But that's another that's another life. And I don't want to drag this along. I just want to thank everyone for showing up, and I hope you get to see a Bugs Life movie in a different angle. Um, Learn little by little to fight the grasshoppers in your life, giants, whatever, you know. Um, and it's okay to be different. It's okay to be different. It's okay to be called out, and occasionally you're gonna get called crazy, right? Because how do you squash a person? By putting them down, making them think like they need to be placed in a mental hospital or outcast, so that, you know, they won't continue speaking. And regardless of what they said about me out there, I really don't care. You know, it proves my case. You know, so I'm gonna continue doing me, living me, and whoever's on board is on board. This is not for everyone, so I don't expect to have this trillions of followers or whatever. And if that happens, amen. You know, but I'm doing it for those who could resonate, and I'm doing those who are struggling with something similar. So, thank you for coming again. I will see you hopefully tomorrow, and the live will be a surprise. Let's give it. If you have suggestions or a topic that you want us to, because hopefully Adam will be joining me. He's a little bit shy, just like I was, you know, like I didn't want to show my face, but okay, he'll warm up. Little by little. Can I say this? Oh yeah, like send me an email. All my information is in my bio. Also, if you know, looking to do like the guidance, clarity, and all that 101, that is all in the website. Is also on my bio. And but in the meantime, I'll continue doing this little live synopsis, so that way you know what angle I come in. And again, I was enforced spiritually. Working from the light doesn't mean that I do tarot. I don't do tarot. I don't know how to do that. And it's fine. Those people have their gift. I have my discernment, my clarity, my helping others through showing them how it works for me. And that's it. Plain and simple. Okay. If you want to learn more, just read about it on the website, and send me a message. All right.
Thank you for
Hasta.
joining, everyone.
All right.
Take care.
Okay. Bye bye.